Hey, I'm wondering whether you have ever thought to yourself or heard the saying that there is a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I just want you to take a moment to see inside yourself what that implies. Because to me, that implies that we could step too far in confidence, that we could kind of, on this scale of confidence, we could kind of climb that ladder and be super confident. And then we could just step one rung too far and tip into arrogance, a place where we don't really want to be, right? I'm just wondering whether your mind ever throws you those sorts of thoughts, often those kind of unconscious story-based thoughts that say things like, don't show off, don't play too big, don't get too confident, too visible, too successful, just, be careful, don't get too big for your boots, make sure you're not stepping into that place away from being the good girl or boy, the kind of humble person, right? Just notice whether your mind ever starts to say those things to you, brings those voices, those stories to you. Because ultimately what happens there when we start to think that there is a place where we can become too confident, too big for our boots, show off too much, too successful, is that we start to self-sabotage. We start to find ways to actually keep ourselves playing small so that doesn't happen. And certainly when I say we start to do that, that's what our unconscious mind will do. Our unconscious mind's job is to protect us, to protect and serve us. And so if it thinks that it needs to keep us small in order to protect us from harm, from being too visible, too confident, and therefore arrogant, and therefore lose connection with people around us or have some negative consequences, it's going to do everything it possibly can to stop us from becoming too confident. And of course, in stopping us from becoming too confident, it actually is going to halt us in being able to be just confident, just actually feeling really confident in and of ourselves. So I suppose to kind of break down this myth, and it completely is a myth, that we can tip too far over that scale, we can go from confidence to arrogance, we need to look at what confidence and what arrogance are. So firstly, let's have a look at actually what confidence is. So the first thing to know about confidence is that confidence is a feeling. We often think of confidence, particularly when we don't get really aware about it, we think of confidence as if it's more of a personality trait, as if it's almost an identity, it's just who we are. She is confident, he is confident, I am or I'm not confident. That's just how it is. But when we actually really take the time to notice what's going on, we start to become aware that confidence is simply a feeling like any other inside us. It ebbs and flows as it's meant to ebb and flow. It changes depending on what context we're in, whether we feel familiar with something or not, whether we've done it before or not. And so confidence is something that is meant to kind of move up and down. Confidence isn't something that's necessarily meant to be there all the time at exactly the same level, always. And just noticing that is quite an empowering thing, so that we stop labeling people around us as simply being this way and then comparing ourselves, and we don't feel like we are that thing. The other thing to know about confidence is that it's completely an inside job. Yes, we can look at those people around us and we can kind of think, because they've got the power poses and the calm, steady voice in meetings and, whatever else seems like from an outside point of view, we perceive them to be confident. Actually, that's not the measure of confidence at all. Seen as confidence is a feeling, the only person who can ever measure any confidence is ourselves, inside us. Yeah, we can look at other people and we can assume that they feel confident, but we're never really going to know how they feel inside. A lot of people are very good at putting on a persona, acting outwardly confident, but not necessarily feeling it on the inside. And so when we talk about confidence, we could very easily create a mask of external confidence. You know, I could give you 10 tips right now to be able to appear to be confident, but you don't want that. You want to be able to feel the confidence on the inside, because confidence is absolutely an inside job. And then the other thing to really know about confidence is that confidence is all about knowing ourselves. It's about loving ourselves. It's about trusting ourselves. So, as I've said, confidence is a feeling. It ebbs and flows. It depends on the context. But there also is a place where we can almost become kind of familiar with that feeling, that we can improve it, we can increase it in our lives and kind of allow it to simmer along in the background, so that we generally feel more of this feeling of confidence on a daily basis. And the work there is all about being able to really quieten those fear voices inside, to be able to open ourselves up to curiosity, to peace, to joy. And that really comes from knowing ourselves, from getting really aware, really, really conscious around who we are, what's going on for us, what's happening in our minds, what's not happening, and to loving ourselves, to really, really coming to a place where we like and love and accept ourselves, and trusting ourselves, trusting our own minds and hearts, and trusting almost everything around us to a place where that voice inside can say, everything will be okay. Everything always is. Everything is happening as it's meant to. Everything will be okay. When we can come to that place, then that feeling inside of confidence is such a beautiful thing that it just emanates out into the world. So what about arrogance? What is arrogance? Because if we're kind of in our minds, when we're not really getting conscious around it, assuming that we can tip from this place of confidence to arrogance, well, then arrogance would have to be the next step on from that, wouldn't it? But let's have a look. What is arrogance? Well, arrogance is masking a feeling. It is generally a mask put on by other people on the face of somebody who is clearly feeling certain feelings inside them that are actually feelings of insecurity. Arrogance is just another form of insecurity. Just think about that for a second. This thing that you're worried you might get to, you might get too big for your boots. You might get to a place where you're arrogantly showing off about things because you're too confident. Actually is not possible, because confidence is here and arrogance is here. It's the complete other end of the scale. Arrogance is just a form of insecurity. It's a form of insecurity that may be louder and more brash than others, but it absolutely is a form of insecurity. And then arrogance is also experienced very differently on the inside to how it's perceived on the outside. So the outside world, onlookers might be labeling people as being arrogant and seeing them as if they must be these super confident people because they are kind of striding forwards in this certain way and not seeming to care what anybody else thinks. But on the inside, people who are experiencing the feelings that then seem to be portrayed or perceived as arrogance on the outside, those feelings are feelings of fear, are feelings of insecurity, are feelings of doubt and worry and having to defend themselves. Because ultimately, arrogance really is the complete opposite of confidence. If confidence is knowing and loving and trusting ourselves, arrogance is not knowing ourselves. Arrogance is trying to prove ourselves desperately and defend ourselves to the world. Arrogance is fearing ourselves, fearing our own minds, fearing, therefore, the people around us and what's happening in the world. arrogance shows as a way to counteract the pain that we're feeling inside. And so ultimately, when we then look at confidence compared to arrogance, there is no way we can tip from one into the other. And in fact, the only way to prevent ourselves from becoming arrogant, too big for our boots, showing off, is actually by developing our confidence. That's the only way to stop it. So I want you just to take a moment now to really notice that there will be places inside you where you're sabotaging, where you're stopping yourself from getting too big, too confident, too successful, where you're holding yourself back because there's that slight fear that you might tip into something you don't like. And I want you to notice right now, it's just not possible. There's no fine line between confidence and arrogance. They're way too far apart for that. They're on completely opposite ends of the scale. And so if you can really work on knowing yourself, on loving yourself, on trusting yourself from a real inside place. Again, it's not about trying to take on board all of those tactics to look confident externally, but when you can really develop and find that inner confidence, then it's a beautiful place to be. And it's the place, it's the antidote to arrogance. It's certainly not you on your pathway towards it. So I want you to just take a moment to really think about how this might be playing in your life, how this might be showing up in your life. How are you sabotaging yourself potentially because there's a voice inside you that says, don't get too big for your boots. Be careful of tipping too far, too confident, too good, too successful. I want you to see whether that's showing up for you. And the first thing, as with any work that we do, particularly any work we do on our own personal growth, is just to notice that, become aware of it, shine a light on it, and notice it just simply isn't true. Thanks so much for watching my video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when I create more videos, which I do every couple of weeks. And also head over to my website because there's loads of amazing free content on there for you. And there is also a fantastic free workshop mini-series at the moment called Living on Purpose, which is all about getting clarity and kind of thinking about your purpose and just having a moment to really get clear on where you're going from a place that's aligned to who you truly are. So check that out on my website. I'll put the details below and I'll see you again next time. Take care.